Hey, and welcome back. It's been a while since I reviewed a guitar, and when I do, it's usually something vintage. Today, though, I have a brand new 2025 Kramer Pacer Deluxe 87 EMG Flip-Flop Blue, which only came out a few days ago. Just to be clear, I didn't receive the guitar for free, and I don't get any money or special considerations from Gibson to talk about it. I paid full price, and I ordered it online directly from the Gibson Kramer website, which is the only place you can get it right now. To be brutally honest, I wouldn't have bought one at all, but I've said multiple times that if Gibson ever released a new Kramer that was like the old 80s ones, especially a Pacer Deluxe, I'd buy one, so I felt a little bit obligated to put my money where my mouth is. I have some more thoughts on that, but let's get into it. Just to break down the review, it's an HSS guitar with EMGs. It sounds like every other HSS guitar with EMGs. I'm going to be talking about it more than playing it. If you want to hear noodling for a while, then I'll probably do another video about that later, so tune in to that. With that out of the way, I'm going to separate this into parts. The first part will be the main overview and quality. I'll give my overall verdict there early for those of you with short attention spans or who don't care about 80s Kramers. And the second part will be my nitpicks and complaints and all the things that in my opinion they got wrong compared to a real one. Inevitably, a blue Pacer Deluxe is going to be associated with Reb Beach from Winger, so the last part I'm going to be talking about his guitar in more detail and comparing it to this one.
Hey, buddy, check it out. I'm going as a wuss. She's only 17. Woo! Ah!
Remember, you can easily jump from section to section by using the chapters in the video description. Alright, let's talk about the first and most obvious thing about the guitar, the price. This guitar is $1,500 before taxes and only available directly from the Kramer website. I have no problem with it being made in China. My real job is in computers, and like anything, there's great stuff made in China and there's crappy stuff made there too. However, it's hard not to feel like the price for this is far too high. If this was being made with top quality parts by experienced luthiers and they were being paid more for their skills, then I'd probably be more forgiving, but the reality is the higher price is just lining some capital investment executives' pockets. A while back, I wrote that if Kramer came out with a new guitar like the old Pacers or Pro Axes, I'd buy one in every color. The fine print to that statement, however, is that I wanted the guitar to be made in the USA. I guess I'm just not fundamentally understanding how Fender can make Stratocasters in the USA and sell them for less than this. Ibanez makes the Genesis series in the same Japanese factory that the 80s ones did, and that costs less than this too. And yes, I'm aware of the tariffs on Chinese goods. I'm aware that 80s Kramers were made mostly from imported Japanese parts, and I'm also aware that by inflation, a USA Kramer would be about $2,500. Moving on, I also think the price is too high to not include a hard case. It arrived inside a Kramer gig bag, which does look pretty nice. Here it is. But it's not all that padded, it's just an average quality bag. The bag also clearly doesn't come with it from the factory. I've ordered guitars from China before, and it's pretty standard that they come in this light packing bag to keep dirt and moisture off of the guitar. I'm guessing that they are shipped from the factory to Nashville, unpacked, and then placed into whatever bag or case they're supposed to come with, and that's what gets shipped to the customer. I can tell because mine had some surface marks on top of the body already when I received it. Anyway, this is one of the most expensive Kramers in the entire lineup. How does it not include a hard case? I also wouldn't normally complain about this thing, but the Gibson website specifically says that this guitar comes with a setup. It had an absolutely awful setup right out of the box. The action was so high that when bending the strings, the string above it was digging into my fingernail. Luckily, the fretwork is pretty good, so I was able to lower the Floyd down, and it feels pretty good. However, there's a cost to that. For some reason, even though there's a route for the Floyd, it's very shallow. With the Floyd set up low into the body for good action, I can barely pull up on it. It's not the block hitting the inside of the trem cavity, it's actually the string screws hitting the top of the body in the recess. I guess you could get around this by shimming the neck and raising the Floyd. Otherwise, the fit and finish is pretty good. The frets are nicely tapered at the edges and consistent. The wood grain looks great. It feels nice, and the paint job is really awesome. It's absolutely not flip-flop blue in the 80 cents, but it is a true color-changing paint job that looks great as the light changes at certain angles. The Floyd Rose 1000 feels reliable and returns to pitch after every dive, and I like EMGs, and they sound like I'd expect them to. The controls do feel pretty cheap. There's no friction for the knobs, and a strong breeze might change your volume and tone settings. There's also a two-way mini switch to split the humbucker, and it's so extremely flimsy and located close to the volume knob, it's a little bit annoying if you bump it by accident, and it'll definitely annoy some players. I have some more points about the controls, but I'll save that for the nitpicking section. I'll give them credit though. They got a lot of stuff right. Black pointy headstock with the Pyramid Kramer logo, black 8-hole pickguard. The neck is a nice 3-piece build that feels very nice in the hand. I'm also pleasantly surprised to see the Floyd locking nut screws mounted through the neck, and a nice fat volute there. I'm used to feeling that when I slide down to the chording area, so it feels natural to me. I don't expect everything about the guitar to be a one-to-one copy of a real Pacer from 1987, but they succeeded in getting the overall look and vibe right, and I really can't complain about that. It looks awesome, plays very well, and sounds great. So, my overall verdict. It's kind of hard to recommend this guitar. I get dragged occasionally for my review of the 2020 Night Swan, and as some point out, that guitar wasn't meant to be a reissue. I suppose neither is this guitar, but they know what they're doing putting 87 in the model name. Let's call it Reissue Adjacent. But here's the thing, even if I view it through the lens of just a standard new guitar, I'm not sure I can justify what feels like a $1,000 paint job on a $500 guitar. It's not a bad guitar, it's just incredibly overpriced. Like, more than double what it should be. But it does check a lot of boxes. Like I said, it looks great, it sounds great, it plays well. I can definitely see the use case. If you're a gigging musician in an 80s cover band and don't want to beat up your vintage gear, for example. I don't know, I'm clearly conflicted. I suppose, if anything, it makes me more interested in the non-exclusive Pacer Deluxe models, which came out recently and are $500 cheaper than this. And it does give me a little bit of hope for future Kramers. So I guess it's a lukewarm positive review. One last note, the marketing for this guitar was pretty much non-existent. I'm pretty Kramer obsessed. I own a t-shirt. I own a sign that a friend of mine gifted me from a Sam Ash that closed. Like one of those neon advertising Kramer signs. And I have like 50-something vintage Kramers, and I've owned even more than that. But I didn't even know this guitar existed until I saw one of the non-exclusive models advertised on Reverb. I looked those up, and I stumbled across a post on the Kramer forum talking about the flip-flop blue one. I guess I shouldn't be complaining though, because they're already sold out. So either they had very, very low stock, or Reb Beach fans are more rabid than I expected. Okay, that concludes the main review. Keep watching if you want to see me nitpick some of the details they got wrong compared to a vintage Kramer or Reb Beach's Pacer. Otherwise, thanks for watching.
Really? You want to talk to me? Wow, that's cool. Let's go to the mall. I know this great new place.
Yeah.
Alright, time to pick apart the tiny details. I'll try to keep this relatively short, so I'll just rattle them off with some detail clips to show the parts that I'm talking about. First, some things I expected to be different, so no points off for these. Number 1, it's got a Floyd Rose 1000 mounted with studs instead of an OFR with wood screws, no surprise there. Number 2, no Schaller tuners, but they do look the part at least with 135-degree set screws and the correct shape of the buttons. Number 3, no neck plate, and the heel is carved slightly towards the neck. I don't really get this trend, but I have pretty big hands, so regular bolt-ons never bothered me. The 5-bolt thing is pretty weird. It reminds me of the 6-bolt Gary Kramer guitars. The truss rod adjustment is at the heel, not at the headstock. I'd rather have it at the headstock, but I'm not that particular. But at least they could have put like a fake truss rod cover up there with the word Pacer on it. EMGs have the new logo instead of the 80s logo on the face, and they're quick connect style instead of soldered in, but again, not a big deal. There is a 9-volt battery compartment on the back, which is not original but pretty convenient. It's a lot better than taking the whole pickguard off every time you want to change battery, which is what I did before when I had EMGs installed in this guitar. The backplate also has these little cutouts, which make it a lot easier to adjust if you change tunings or break a string or something. The headstock logo doesn't have the American script or the TM at the end, but also no surprise. It also has a 10 to 14 inch compound radius fretboard, at least according to the website. I'm not sure if I noticed that, and I tried to look pretty close, but I don't have the tools to measure, so someone would have to verify. I do notice that that detail is missing from the website, so I wonder if it was supposed to be a compound radius and then for some reason isn't. All that stuff is pretty expected, or at least I can understand the reasoning behind it since it's 2025 and not 1985. But there's some stuff that I didn't really notice until I actually had it in my hands. Number 1, the color is definitely not flip-flop blue. It's a very nice color changing paint, but it's a modern color shifting paint like you'd see on a car. This is a real flip-flop blue, which is 2-layer paint with a pinkish purple undercoat and blue on top. When in direct light, it just looks like a sky blue, but at certain angles you see the pink and purple come through, especially on the edges of the body. To be fair though, this new paint looks more like the one in the 17 music video, and I know this will shock some people, but Reb Beach's Pacer was not flip-flop blue. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Number 2, the body shape is slightly off in general. The forearm contour is at the wrong angle, and the edges are not rounded off enough. Just like the headstock, it's close but not quite right. The trem cavity cover is also recessed into the body, which is neat, but not correct for a late model Pacer Deluxe with a recessed Floyd. Some earlier Kramers had a recessed cavity, but not this style. Routing for the Floyd has a lot more tolerance around it compared to the old bodies, and you can see on mine that they mounted the Floyd very close to the treble side of the route, and even then my bass string is closer to the edge of the neck than the treble side. I can live with that, but if it were the other way around with the high E rolling off the edge of the neck, I'd probably be returning this guitar. There's also no black foam pad in the Floyd recess to protect the finish, so when pulling up, since the recess is so shallow, it hits every time I pull up, and it eventually damages the paint. It also has generic strap pins instead of Schaller type. I can buy Chinese-made Schaller knockoff strap pins off of Amazon for like $4, so why weren't they on their stock? The pickguard is single ply, which is right, and it is the 8-hole guard, which is right, but it's gloss black instead of matte black and has beveled edges. The originals would have just had straight edges. The coil split switch is chrome instead of black, and it's located closer to the volume knob than the originals, and it's also a 2-way switch. The originals had a 3-way for series, split, and parallel operation, although I'm not sure if the EMG 89 can do that. Reb Beach's Pacer didn't have a split switch at all, just a hole where it was removed. The neck looks like 3-piece maple in the online pictures, but in person it's definitely a much more brown roasted maple. The satin finish isn't really like the originals, which were glossier. We'll see how it does when it gets broken in a little bit more. The headstock shape is also slightly off. It should be more curved towards the bottom, but it's very close and not exactly right. The headstock logo is also much more yellow in color than the originals, which are gold. And some of the mother of pearl dot inlays are very flat looking, like plastic, so I'm not sure if it's real mother of pearl. I know, like I said, I'm definitely nitpicking. It's just that some of these details are so minor and so small that it's even more frustrating that they didn't get them right. Like I said, I can forgive some stuff that's out of Gibson and Kramer's control, like the logo on the EMGs, or even the fact that they used an EMG 89, which obviously came out in 1989 and wouldn't be on a guitar in 87. But how hard could it be to source a matte black pickguard, a black mini switch, or route the Floyd a little bit deeper? I think if I step back, what I'm really calling out is the focus on profit over quality. The neck doesn't line up, make the Floyd route wider. It needs a black pickguard, we can source one from another guitar already on the production line. If the price weren't at such a premium, I could even forgive stuff like that, but at a higher price, I'm going to be picky about where I think things were done wrong. Sorry. Okay, so let's talk about Reb Beach's Pacer Deluxe real quick, because there are a couple of internet rumors that are simply taken as fact these days. The most obvious big mistake is that his guitar was flip-flop blue. It was not. Here he is on the cover of Guitar for the Practicing Musician in 1989, holding what is clearly a candy blue Pacer Deluxe. And it's not just one used for the photo op, it's his. Note the tape on the whammy bar and EMG pickups. I wish I could find it again, but Reb gave an interview like 15 years ago where they asked about the Pacer, and he said that he sold it, couldn't remember the name of the color, but that it wasn't flip-flop. Over time, that's been lost, and even his own website says the guitar was flip-flop blue now. Here's another press photo of him holding the guitar from 1988, and trust me, as someone who has taken probably 1,000 pictures of these guitars, trying to show the color changing part, they do not look like that with camera flashes and studio lights. And here's a couple of pictures or screen grabs I pulled from concert footage, also in 1988. Looks like candy blue to me. So what about the 17 music video? Let's take a closer look at that too. I took a lot of screenshots of this, but look at the way it's filmed. It's under very strong purple colored stage lights. You can see the color of the lights on their skin and clothes, so of course the guitar is going to look really great moving it around a lot. The only bit that's a little hard to explain is the flashes of green you see in occasional shots like these. I'm not sure if there was a green light somewhere too or what. Unless someone who worked on the lighting for the music video comes out and gives more details, I'm not sure we'll ever know. Now it is certainly possible that this guitar had non-factory paint or was repainted at some point, but either way I've made my point here. And to give some credit to Gibson, even though the color of this new guitar is not 80s flip-flop blue, it absolutely nails the 17 video look, even in boring light like my little home studio here. I can only imagine how cool this guitar would look under real stage lights. There's more to the guitar than just the paint, of course. First, it's obviously a Pacer Deluxe with the stock 8-hole pickguard and regular Strat knobs. It's been upgraded to EMGs, specifically an EMG 85 and 2 SAs. The EMG 89, which he used later on Ibanez guitars, did not exist at this time, and there is yet another interview on Cutting Loose where he mentions that he used to use the 85 until EMG supplied him with a new type of pickup, and that's the 89. As you can see in this shot, the coil tap mini switch is simply missing. And here's another shot from a bit later where it's even more clear. This particular Pacer Deluxe is a later model, at least 87 or 88, with a pyramid logo headstock with binding but no 12th fret Kramer inlay. This means it has a recessed Floyd, and they didn't make many Deluxes this late. It's hard to find these guitars or even the bodies. They were really pushing models with the new 7/8 dinky body shape, and the Deluxe looking like a modded Strat just wasn't that cool anymore, I guess. Other than the color, though, that's about it. If you cornered me into making a serial number guess, I guess I'd say it probably had a black serial number plate somewhere in the F3000 to F6000 range. Keep in mind that Kramer used plates out of order, and guys like Reb probably got guitars built specifically for them, as opposed to buying a standard production model from their local shop. The neck is also notable because it only lasted for a very short time. I've had 2 examples of this neck with the headstock binding but no inlay. The vast majority of bound headstock Kramer necks had the 12th fret inlay. And that leads to my last bit. Did he have more than one? Or did this guitar go through some changes over time? Also from the Cutting Loose video, there's a clip of him from either late 1989 or 1990. This is a dark blue Pacer Deluxe with EMGs just like before, but the neck has a 12th fret inlay. Also notable is that he still had the Strat style volume knob, and the 2 toe knobs are smaller dome-shaped ones instead. This would have been pretty close to his switch to Ibanez, where he ditched the tone knob altogether on his RBM models, or the WRC he plays in the video. I wonder if those are just dummy controls and the different knob type was purely functional so he wouldn't grab the wrong control playing live. There's a moment in the clip where you can see him cut the volume, and since he holds the whammy bar in his palm, he actually uses his thumb to cut the volume and then roll it back up again before going into the next riff. The way his hand is positioned, his other fingers are definitely close to the tone knobs. Now, I'm way off on a tangent speculating about something unimportant here, but it's something I noticed while digging around. Back on track, the body appears the same as the one from the 17 video and tour era, but the neck is definitely different. Alright, that's all I have today. If anyone worked on the 17 music video or worked at Kramer with Reb Beach and artist relations or has any more information, I'd really appreciate you reaching out or leaving a comment. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See ya.
Let's find something that rocks.